If you love history, traditional arts and skills, and vintage living as much as I do, come join me here at the Homestead, where the conversations are always interesting and educational. I'm glad you're here. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Willow's Vintage Homestead, where we talk about all manner of old-timey topics. I'm your host, Willow Polson, and with me today is Heidi Iverson of Honeyfolk Clothing. You may have heard of her website. You may not have known the person behind the website, and she's put out a book about natural plant dyes and lichens and mushrooms and all that good stuff, and also is into visible mending, which fascinates me. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Hello, Heidi. How you doing?
Hello, Willow. I am good. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Yeah, thanks for accepting, because I got your book and it's just so beautiful and so well done. I'm like, oh, she's never going to come on the podcast. You're like, sure. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, I love natural dyes or plant dyes, botanical dyes, however you refer to them. I find them fascinating and a really nice way to connect with your surroundings if you live somewhere where you can gather plants, or if you're visiting somewhere where you can gather plants. And so I like to share that because it brings me joy, and I hope it brings everybody else some joy.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I've been getting into that over the last year or so and kind of discovering things I didn't know about. Well, because there's broom, right? And everybody's like, oh, broom, you can dye things with broom. Not with Scotch broom, you can't, but with Spanish broom, you sure can. So that's what I've
Oh,
been playing with, that kind of thing.
yeah, we have different ones growing along the roadside, because I know in Europe they always use gorse, which I
Yep.
think is also like a relative. I think we have both French and Scotch, but I don't know if we have Spanish in my area. But
Ooh, well, I hope, well, I both hope so and I hope not, because like all brooms in
oh,
America, it's an invasive, so
super invasive. Is Spanish also referred to as dyer's broom? Because I think there is one that people call dyer's broom.
It is slightly different. It is not dyer's broom, but it's
Okay.
a very large broom. It has really big, fragrant flowers. That's one of the best ways to tell. It smells absolutely wonderful and
Oh,
gives you a beautiful buttery yellow. It's just gorgeous.
nice. I'll have to keep my eyes peeled for that.
Yeah, in fact, that's one of the things I really like to do is find non-native invasives and see if I can make dye out of them. Because then it's like, well, I gotta rip them up anyway. Why don't I see what they do? And I think it was your video that inspired me to try nutsedge, and it's gorgeous.
Yeah, isn't that a cool one? I was so surprised. And I actually was just like up in the garden because it is the constant battle. And
Yep.
that one I think is actually a native. Well, because horsetail is another one that makes a beautiful color,
Oh,
that it is a native, or there is one that is a native. I
right,
think
right.
it's like a lot of plants. Some of them are native and some of them are the non-native species. It's another one I love it. It's so invasive.
Yeah.
If it's somewhere where it's damp. But yeah, when I was in the garden, I still have nutsedge blooming. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's right. We have rain now. It's such a weird adjustment that like I keep finding plants at different times than I did like 3 years ago, which I think is also really an interesting aspect where you're like, oh yeah, you always have to keep your eyes open because you never know what you're
Yeah.
gonna find.
Right. Like the nutsedge, we were both surprised to discover it makes a beautiful peach color. And I did have success with that after watching your video. Thank you for that.
Excellent.
And then I've recently seen St. John's wort reblooming with the rain.
Really? Oh,
Yeah, I've seen fresh flowers on there. So I'm thinking, well, I want to go out and get some of that because I gather it, I dry it. I don't know. Maybe you can tell me this. I mean, what's the difference between a dried material and a fresh material like St. John's wort, perhaps?
it's a subtle vividness is what I would say, or a subtle kind of brightness. It's sort of like with St. John's wort, depending on if you use flowers with the green part of the plant, it adds like a slight depth to the color, but you still
Hmm.
get a beautiful color without the flowers. Loquat leaves are another good example where it's just more terracotta. It's not really like a super bright orange, but there's
Hmm.
like a brightness to it. So I think that's generally what happens with, but not all, of course, but a lot of them, there's just like this brightness, which,
Of
you
the
know,
fresh material.
yeah, of the fresh material, but it's pretty subtle. And I don't know
Mhm.
like how many people would notice it unless you're like really looking for it.
Right, right.
Um,
Like A, B it next to each other, it's something
yeah.
like that.
Yeah. I know goldenrod is one where you definitely get a better color when it's fresh. And
Okay.
as it gets older, the color really diminishes. It's kind of one of those where it's experimenting and learning about the plants because they all kind of act a little differently.
Now, what about consistency? Because I'm having a lot of trouble with that, where I think I'm doing exactly the same thing as I did before, and I get something wildly different.
So if it's ones that you're foraging, I think that has a lot to do with, I'll use the word terroir. I think that's definitely like a wine term since I live in Sonoma County, but a lot of it
Ah,
is like it's climate and soil. It's like the everything that's around you. Part of it is definitely soil because even there's acacia that I've gathered from two different places and they're literally only 2 miles apart.
hmm.
And one of them does not give me a clear, bright yellow. It gives me kind of a dingy gold. And
Huh.
I'm using the same parts of the plant. I did it the same time of year. In that case, I'm like, it has to be something in the soil right there.
Yeah.
So maybe there's
Minerals.
more, yeah, maybe there's more iron right there, or there's
Right.
something. That's a lot of it is water, sunshine definitely affect it, and how much sun the plant gets too. It's that, and
Mm.
I know that that seems like a lot of different elements to kind of think about.
Not anything we can really control. I mean, unlike, making soap or something, which is a chemical reaction. I mean, this is wild foraging. It matters, the time of year, whether it's fresh or dry. A lot of this you can't reproduce. And so people really need to let go of trying to match dye lots.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a really, really good point. And I mean, I think that's why there's all those what I think of as the traditional or the historical natural dyes. And it's because you can get consistency with them. But those are also generally grown specifically for that use. And like extracts, especially because they have been, well, they've been extracted and they've gone through a process where they are going for consistency. You know, their extractions are more expensive, but they're also more consistent. To me, like the letting go is also kind of some of like the beautiful magic part of it.
Hmm.
Because you're just like, well, what am I going to get? I don't know.
Right. It's kind of a neat surprise, honestly. I mean, yeah, if you just unclench and, don't go, it has to be the same color. It's like just,
That is
you
like
know.
that's the perfect way to put it. You just got to unclench. Just,
Yeah.
it's so good.
Well,
Yeah.
speaking of iron, I have a lot of iron. I mean, I live in like iron central. The soil is very red, and all my well water. I mean, you should see all the fixtures in my my bathroom are like brown, so because of all the
Yeah.
iron. But I can use it as an iron dip after using different mordants and different materials. So, have you played around with like an iron dip or an iron wash or anything like that?
Oh, yeah, yeah, definitely. The first natural dye that I actually truly fell in love with was oat gall and iron, and it was,
Hmm.
like, the only dye I used for years.
Oh,
Um,
really?
and then it was, like, madder and indigo, but that was
Ah.
kind of it, and then I was like, "Oh, maybe I'll try weld." And then I was like, "Oh," then it was sort of like, "What's this do? What's that do?" I love oat gall and iron, and it's, like, it's one of those too where if you mordant your fabric with like alum or aluminum acetate and
Mhm.
then do the oat gall and then do the iron, you'll get a even deeper, richer color. So
Ooh.
it's like it's a, I guess I'd call it like an unnecessary step. And maybe you can even do it afterwards, like a modifier.
Yeah, that's what I'm
'Cause it's
planning on doing at my next class this coming Sunday actually is having a container of iron water right out of my well. And then, hey everybody, if you did something with tannin in it, dip the end of your skein and see what happens, and maybe get some dye
yeah,
up and stuff.
yeah, I kind of love that. I mean, it's got to be both wonderful and frustrating that your water has
Yeah.
so much iron in it because it would be kind of great just to turn on a tap, fill a bucket, and be able to just to dip something in and change the color of it. Like,
That's really the only benefit.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Although, I mean, if I guess you have very pale hair, you can get kind of an auburn look or but yeah, that's no. I'd rather I'd trade you. So you said you were gathering mushrooms this morning or something. How's that going?
Yeah, it's going good. I found a new patch and I'm pretty sure they're Dyer's polypore. I haven't gone. There's another trail that I need to go walk on that's by my house that I can usually find dead
Mm.
man's foot, which is Dyer's puffball, which just usually makes a nice pink
Oh.
color. But
Oh.
it's the best to use when it's fresh
Okay.
because once it dries, the spores, it's all spore. It's really cool. Look it up. It's like one of the ugliest mushrooms, and it's like one of my favorite things.
I may
Um,
have those here. That sounds familiar. Is it just kind of like burbles up out of the ground and then it's
yes,
like this powdery stuff?
yes, it's
Ah,
exactly what it is. When the spores dry out, they become less soluble in water, but they're still soluble. You just like soak them and put like some dishwashing detergent or glycerin in there,
oh,
and then that helps moisten them. And I usually just like I'll heat them up and soak them and wait a couple of days, and then they usually like rehydrate really well. But
oh,
that's
cool.
that's a fun one. That's another fun one, especially if you do wool because you don't need to mordant it.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, I just do wool pretty much. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. But the Dyer's polypore. So I found a new patch, and it's going to rain in 2 days. So I want
Hmm.
to gather some now before it sort of starts to decompose because
Oh,
that's
gotcha.
that's what rain will do. And I haven't used
So,
it yet. So I'm also excited about that.
well, I hope
I
you
know.
do a video.
Well, so I did because so I shot some video this morning, and then I'll shoot video of the process too. Because, and even if it doesn't work, I'm still going to share because I'm not going to let it discourage me from trying it again. Because
Right.
maybe I should have harvested it sooner. I know a lot of people start looking for it in the beginning of October
Okay.
and find it, but I've not found it that early. You
Hmm.
never know.
Yeah, well, that definitely true. And I've seen so many different results. It's so hard to know what's real anymore on Instagram because I mean, I've had people show me stuff they've done with like avocado skins and pits, and I've gotten absolutely jack out of that, like almost nothing. But other people are like, oh, look at this beautiful pink, and then someone else was like, that's a Instagram grift. Nobody can get that color, and I don't know. What am I doing wrong?
I don't think you're doing anything wrong. I think it has a lot to do with quantity because what I was told was like you actually need a lot. Like I wanted to try it with like I think like a pillowcase and someone's like, "Oh, you'll need like 30 pits and
Whoa.
all the skins." And I was like, "Oh, I don't eat that many avocados." Like
Mhm, mhm.
like and a friend of mine was like, "Well, I can save them for you." And I was like, "I can get like really good pinks sort of like in that same realm
Uh-huh.
much simpler." So I'm just gonna
Well
go that route.
well, do
Um,
tell because, I mean, that's one of the most desirable everybody wants something that isn't just brown or, yellow's an easy one to do.
yeah,
There's tons and tons and tons of flowers that do yellow.
yeah,
Um,
there's just tons and tons of like tree leaves that do yellow too. Well, so if you don't mordant your wool, well, you don't have to mordant your wool or cotton, like any cellulose fibers, you can use it without horsetail. If you
ah,
gather it early on, or if you have a big patch and you gather the spores,
hmm.
wear a mask, tap them in a container. But I have found at least the patch where I gather them, if I get it, is it like May into June? And I haven't done it later in the year now that we're getting rain again. But if you soak them, if you get a lot of them and soak them, like heat it, let it sit, heat it the next day, let it sit with all the material in it. I've gotten really, really rich, what I think of as like that dusty mauvey pink, like anywhere from like pale baby pink. And then I've gotten it like richer and richer, but it kind of like stops at like a really nice dusty pink. And I think I got the same color. It's slightly peachier on wool,
Okay. Yeah,
but
that's the
yeah,
great thing about your book is it's all color and it's got swatches, so we can see
yeah,
exactly what it's doing on the different things with the different mordants. Yeah, that's a really good book.
that was really important to me because that was something that I always got frustrated with books. Because like one of my other favorite natural dye books, and I'm sure you have it, is Jenny Dean's Wild Color.
Yup.
It's like to me that's like one of the best books.
Yep.
And my main issue with it is it's all what I think of as paint chip swatches. So
Okay. Yeah.
it's not real. It's not, it's a representation of the color that you can get, but it's not necessarily the color you can get. And so that's why I wanted to use wool, silk, cotton, linen, kind of different thicknesses, and
Hmm.
then also the different mordants, just so that people could really understand. And some of my samples are not perfect either. I will
Yeah.
fully, like some of them I was like, it's not perfect. And I was like, you know what? Everything doesn't need to be perfect because it's real. And when you said that about Instagram, it's true, is like so much is so edited that you
Yeah.
get these unrealistic expectations and you think you're doing something wrong and you're not. So,
It's just different circumstances, different water, different, whatever it is. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's all the variables. Yeah.
Well,
And
so here,
I was going to say one other thing, if you've got loquat leaves, I don't know if you do,
nah,
but
I'm up in the mountains. It's too cold here.
oh, well,
Listeners may.
if you ever get loquat leaves, they are pH sensitive. I've managed to get different colors just with the amount of time I steep them, but
Hmm.
it's also changed with the years and the seasons. I think the smoke had a lot to do with it too, and the like
Right.
health of the trees for a while. Alkaline makes it more pink.
Mm.
Acidic makes it more orange. So if you dye it first, say with alum, if you're using wool, and actually you don't even need to because there's like so much tannin in it, but you'll get
Okay.
you get a richer color. But then if you put it in an alkaline, you add enough to shift the pH of the dye bath into an alkaline dye bath and then put the skein back in,
Hmm.
it
Yep.
will make it more pink, and kind of you can get, varying shades of sort of similar to the horsetail, but it's still a different pink, but it's a
Okay.
great pink, and you can get a more, I would say, a slightly more saturated color, but you
Nice.
don't want to modify it first, because I think really alkaline solutions can damage protein fibers, but they don't
Oh,
damage cellulose fibers. I have more experience with cellulose fibers. So it's one of those where like I also find it kind of exciting when I use like wool and things like that, because I'm not as familiar with it. And so then I'm also learning more about that.
okay. Well, what
So,
do you use for the alkaline?
oh, I
Not
use like washing soda or soda ash.
so it's not just baking soda, maybe.
No, I think baking soda does something. It still makes it alkaline. See, that's the thing I don't know either, because I've only recently got into other modifiers other than iron. Because I'm like, well, why not? Like, and especially if something doesn't turn out great, you're like, "Oh, I'll just over dye it, or I'll just dip it in iron. I can always
Right,
use some
right.
sort of gray." Or, because you can kind of make olives and things like that out of yellows. Yeah, I know there's a difference. It's because there's like chalk you write with, and then there's like calcium carbonate chalk,
Oh,
because
yeah.
there's binders and stuff in like writing chalk and some other stuff, and it's not the same chemical composition. And I am also not a scientist, so that's why I'm like,
Right.
ah. But then I'm like, oh, I just need to experiment more, because it might change things subtly. I don't know if it changes things
Right.
a lot,
I've
but
seen some really beautiful results with chalk, and of course, everybody's thinking, "Well, I'll just use baking soda. I'll just use cream of tartar out of the cabinet. I'll just use, this chalk and grind it up." But it's you really kind of can't.
yeah. Or if you do, it's like you have to realize that it might be something different. It might do something different. Yeah, I find it kind of fascinating.
Oh
Um,
yeah, no, absolutely. It's always an experiment. And it's always a lot of fun to see what comes out of it. I mean, I've started dry setting where I don't rinse it until it's been fully dry for at least 24 hours. And
yep.
I'm getting a better color.
Yep. I had people be like, "Oh, you have to wait a whole week." And then somebody else was like, "No, you really just like 24 hours or 2 days." And I fully agree. Like, you definitely get a better color. Which makes sense, because if you think about, if you get something on your clothes and you don't wash it out right away, it's a lot harder to get it out. That's the difference between a stain and a dye, but it's still one of those where it's true. It's like you get a much better color. And I usually will run it through the washing machine without any soap
Okay.
once, and then throw it in the dryer. then because like I says, like most of mine is cotton or linen, and
Right.
then I'll wash it with soap. But it also depends on what I'm going to use it for.
Right,
Um,
right. Oh, and you just mentioned something I want to talk about, which is a dye versus a stain, because people are like, well, these grapes are beautiful. I will make something bright purple with this grape juice from the
yeah,
refrigerator. And it's like, yeah, and prepare for disappointment.
yep. I had somebody bring blueberries to one of my dye classes because they wanted to make blue. And
Oh, gee.
it took me like a half an hour to convince her that it wouldn't work. She just wouldn't believe me. If blue is that easy to get, like indigo would not have been worth so much money.
Right, right. And that's a
So,
whole other animal.
oh yeah,
That's
that's
a
yeah.
not a water soluble dye, which is a
Mm,
whole other
yep.
creature.
Yep. That's a good way of putting it. So stain is on the outside and
Mhm.
dye actually penetrates and goes all the way into the fiber and binds to the fiber.
So
And yeah,
most berries are a stain and will either fade, turn brown, not be what you want. Yeah.
yeah, I think pokeberry is one that does work, but only on is it only on wool or is it just on protein
I
fibers in general?
don't know. I don't well, I would imagine if it's on any kind of protein, it would be
Yeah.
right? I mean, it seems to me it would be if it works
Well,
on wool, it's gonna work on other
you
proteins.
you say that, but
Yeah.
so like saffron flowers work on silk and they work on cellulose fibers, but they don't work on wool. You can get
Either.
yellow, but you won't get that pink color.
Huh.
Or
Okay,
there's
well,
also kind of a red. But I mean, that's a flower petal, but like that I agree because I thought you could. And then when I was doing more research and then I actually tried it and I was like, wow, how does that work? And I was like, well, silk, it's from an insect and it is structurally different than hair. But
yeah.
I'm like, oh, yeah, silk goes into the realm of magic. Like,
Right. Well,
in general, you're right. Protein fibers generally are the same across the board.
gotcha, gotcha. Okay, but sometimes not, and that's
Yeah.
that's again, you just gotta keep a notebook and write down your experiments and just see what's working for your circumstances and your part of the country, when you gathered the stuff, whatever it
Yeah.
is, it all matters.
Yep.
I don't want to miss out on talking about visible mending right
Oh,
here
yeah.
at the end. So that is interesting to me. Now there's the Japanese method. There's other different. I mean, you can just sew a patch over something, but it just looks like a patch. But a very creative embroidery type because I love embroidery. I'm like an
Yeah.
embroidery guild member and all that. So what do you do for visible mending?
Mine is more in what I would say like the Japanese style, or I would say Japanese style influence, especially like the boro, which is more of like the worn and patched and worn and patched and worn and patched. That's because I will continually patch like my favorite garments until they disintegrate because there's certain things that I just love, and especially ones like I've dyed lots of dresses with indigo, and it's such a process that I'm like, "Oh, I'll just keep patching it, and I'll just keep dipping it in indigo and patching it and dipping it in indigo." It's almost like you're reweaving
Yeah.
the fabric, and I also love, like, darning socks and things like that, which is more like using, you can use wool or cotton thread and then use the little looms or use a darning egg. And it
Right.
is, you really are reweaving the fabric.
Now that's
Yeah, with
something that most people used to do and just nobody does anymore. Well, not nobody because here you are, but I mean, it's a kind of a
yeah,
kind of a
yeah,
semi-lost art, I mean, a lot of people don't take the time. They don't have the time. They're just,
yeah,
pop down to Walmart and buy a six pack of socks and that's the end of that.
yeah. I feel like that it got a big resurgence. I think that was one of the good things that came out of the pandemic,
Yeah.
was people did start repairing things, and again out of necessity, and that's why people used to repair things before was like out of necessity. So one of the reasons why I like the visible mending, or even just like how I create a lot of like my artwork and things like that, is I love the rhythm of it. And for the longest time I just used an embroidery hoop and a thimble and did it that way. And then I made myself sit down and learn how to use a palm thimble, just partially so I wasn't doing the same repetitive motion.
Oh, yeah.
And then I realized I was like, oh, it's like a totally different rhythm. it looks the
Mm,
same, but and I also find that fascinating. And it's the same with embroidery, is like you're still just using a needle and thread,
right.
but it's a different rhythm. And I love how all of the different rhythms sort of, I don't know, make you feel differently, tap into a different part of your brain, calm you down. Or like
Mhm.
sometimes when I learn a new stitch, I just get so excited. You know, I was like, wow, wrapping a French knot, or it's actually a forbidden knot if you do it once. It's anything more than that, it's a French knot. But then if you get even more than that, then you can make a bullion. It's always fascinating. It's always exciting to me. And a lot of it is just how it ends up making you feel, like the difference when you learn something and then when you get more comfortable and then when you don't have to think about it anymore.
Right.
Um, yeah, each element just sort of creatively interacts with you differently. I don't know
Yeah.
how else to say it.
No, no, that's very good, and it's kind of a very meditative thing, right?
Yeah,
When you can get to that point where, you've got the rhythm down and you don't have to really think about it. You're just like crocheting or whatever it is, you can kind of
yeah,
just sink into that and it's just so cozy and nice.
yeah, yeah. And I also like love that visible mending. It can be rustic, it can be really polished. And then there's always, when I used to teach it a lot, there'd be somebody that'd be like, well, I don't want to be able to see it. And I was like, this is a visible mending class.
You're right,
Like,
it's not
like,
invisible mending,
it,
but you're in the wrong
invisible
class.
mending, yeah, I'm like, well, you can use the closest possible same color thread and like same fabric and try to like do it that way, but it's a totally different skill. And I
Yeah.
think people that don't practice handwork, like whether it's knitting, sewing, crocheting, like any of those, embroidery,
Mhm.
each one does a very different thing and it's a very different skill.
Yeah.
And it really is a skill that I wish more people understood, like how it takes time.
Mhm.
It's valuable. I think that's my main thing, is like there is a definite value to it that I don't think a lot of people understand, and
Mhm.
they think it's simple. And it's like, well, in order for it to look simple, you have to be good at it.
Yep,
And it's
right.
hours and hours and hours.
That's kind of the point, is
Yeah.
getting off your device and just doing a quiet thing for, it's
Yeah.
meditation. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Good for the soul. Good for the soul.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, we are already out
Oh,
of time. Wild, right? I could go
yeah.
on for another half hour at least. Do you have any parting thoughts for our audience before I have to let you go?
Just stay curious, keep playing. It's okay if you get discouraged, but and also never, but just don't let it like keep you from continually experimenting. And that mistakes are not failures unless you don't learn something.
Yeah.
Because some of the most wonderful things I've figured out or discovered is because I sat down with it and like tried to find the good elements of it or the things that did work.
It's playtime. Don't forget to play.
Yeah, don't forget to play. That would be my main. Just keep playing. Keep it playing, keep experimenting. Be safe.
Yes.
Be smart.
Right, don't use, some of the more dangerous, obscure, mostly discontinued mordants
Yeah,
because they can
yeah.
kill you, so yeah,
Yeah,
let's stay away
yeah,
from
yeah, and know your plants so you don't get, like, a rash or have, like, a
that.
really bad
Right,
reaction to them too. So,
right. Yeah, do
yeah,
testing. Yep.
yeah.
Alright. Well,
Alright.
thank you so much for your time today and being on the show. It's been a delight. It went by just in a snap, and, maybe I'll have you on, again, as soon as we do some more experimenting and playing, and
Yeah,
we can come back and reconnoiter. Haha.
yeah, I love that, I love that. I would love to join you again anytime. Thank you so
Brilliant.
much for having me on.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.